Okay, so this is the surface area reteach. Again, surface area test number 2. If you need test 1, make sure that you watch the other video on composite figures. This covers questions 6 through 11 on your test. Again, surface area test 2. Alright, so on your corrections page, remember this needs to be on another sheet of paper, not on your test. You're going to divide it into 2 columns. On the left-hand side, you need to put your answer that you chose if you got it wrong. The correct answer once you find that out at the end, and then you're going to go ahead and show us your work that you did to make that correction. Make sure you're following along with the video. In the right hand column, you're going to write why you think you got it wrong. Where did you make your mistake? So that way you know, so that way on your retest you don't make the same mistake. If you got the question correct, then you can skip that part of the video and go on to the next question. There's no need to do a correction on something you got correct. Alright, so question number 6 starts test number 2 on composite figures. And 6 and 7 were both vocabulary questions. They wanted to find the definition of surface area. Now the key words here are surface and area. So really I'm looking for those key words in my definition. So right here in A, the amount of space an object occupies. Well, we haven't really talked about that, so I'm not going to completely eliminate it yet. B, the area of all the surfaces, area and surfaces, on the outside of a figure. Now, that is the definition of surface area. B is correct. Because remember, surface area is what we can touch on the outside of a three-dimensional figure. So like the edge of a tissue box, or on a dresser drawer, the outside panels. We're not so much concerned with the inside when it comes to surface area. That's actually volume, which we're getting to. So why is C wrong? Well, the amount of space is contained within an object. We're not so worried about the inside yet. We'll get there, but as of right now, we're not worried about it yet. So C is not going to be correct. The amount of space an object occupies, not worried about that. And obviously we know the right answer is B, so D cannot be correct. Alright, so number 7 again is on the difference between a lateral versus total. So lateral, remember, is going to be, well, first let's talk about total. Now total, the way I explain it is when you go to the H-E-B or Walmart or grocery store, they give you your total at the end because they add up all your groceries. They don't pick and choose which groceries they're going to ring up for you. They add up everything for you. So with total, we want to add up everything. So we want to add the faces plus the bases. Okay, so that's everything. Now lateral, okay, when I think lateral, I think, okay, when I ask you to move that way, what am I asking you? Well, I'm asking you to move side to side. Okay, now in three-dimensional figures, instead of calling it a side, okay, we call it a face. So lateral means faces only. So with this question, we're asking you to define the difference between lateral and total. So let's look at which one gives us that. Lateral surface area means area of the bases only. Well, no, we just talked about that. Lateral means sides. And remember, sides, we say, are the faces of a shape. Total surface area and lateral surface area are the same. Well, no, because remember, bases are included with total, not with lateral. So we can say that that's not correct. Lateral surface area means the area of the faces only. Well, that's what we just talked about. Faces only, H is correct, which means that J cannot be correct. So again, if you got 6 or 7 incorrect, just go back and see maybe there might have been some confusion to the difference between lateral and total. And then also maybe not so much you got caught up on with surface area is the outside, not the inside. So either one of those two are wrong. Go ahead and make your corrections. And then on 6 and 7, it would be more about the right-hand column, not so much the work side. Just tell us why you think you got it wrong. All right, so moving on, number 8. Okay, number 8 is going to be probably one of the more heavy math skill questions here, because there's a lot of calculations and a lot of missing sides. So the first thing I'm going to look at is, am I looking for total or lateral? Well, it's asking me here, what is the total surface area? So that means I'm going to be adding the faces plus the bases. So now that this is a rectangular prism. Now the important thing to know there is rectangular prism, because what we need to know is that the base the bases here are going to be rectangles. Okay. Now, that's going to be really important for the next unit for you guys to understand. But for right now, it's important to know that the bases, now you notice I say bases because it's a prism, so that means it has two bases, are going to be in the shape of the rectangles. The way I teach it is that the bases are going to be your wings of this net. So it's going to be the flaps on the outside. So for example, this guy right here is a wing, and this guy right here is a wing. Okay, so those are going to be your two bases, which means everything else in the middle is going to be your face. And I'm going to label those faces 1, face 2, face 3, and face 4. Another thing you need to know about prisms is that there is actually a pattern. And the pattern there is that the odd numbered faces are going to be equivalent and the even numbered faces are going to be equivalent. So what do I mean by that? I mean that face 1 is equal to face 3, and we'll change colors here. Face 2 is equal to face 4. So once we know the area of either face 1 or face 3, then we know the area of the other. Same thing for face 2. So for example, if I find face 2, then I know face 4. Okay? The same thing can be said about the bases, that the bases B1 is going to be equal to B. They are also the same. All right, so let's determine what we can find first. Well, the easiest thing to find is that it's all rectangles, so we know we're going to be doing base times height. So, but let's see if I have a base and height of any of these rectangles. Well, face 1, I have a base and a height. I have a 3 and a 7.5. So let's find the area of that. Because remember, if I find the area of face 1, then I know the area of face 3. So 7.5 times 3 is going to be 22.5. Remember, when we multiply, we don't need to line up decimals. We just need to go back and count. I have 1 total, 1 on top, 0 on bottom, so I move it 1 back. So I know that face 1 and face 3 are both going to be 22.5. Alright, so let's look at face 2 and 4. Now, here I have 11.5 on face 2, but I have no height. Where can I get the height from? Well, we're going to borrow it from face 1, and here's how. By rules of rectangles, we know that opposite sides are congruent. So if this side right here is 3, that means this side right there is 3. So now that is also going to be the height of my face 2. So now I know my base is 11.5, getting that from right here. And my borrowed height from face 1 is also the height of face 2 is 3, so I multiply that by 3. So when I multiply that out, I get 34.5. So face 1 and face 2 and face 4 are both going to be 34.5. Alright, so now I have enough to actually find the total number of faces, total number of area for my faces, which is also saying the same thing as my lateral. So let's do that. Now, when we do this, a lot of you will automatically want to jump and just add those two numbers together. But you got to be careful because you got to think, well, how many of these 22.5s do I have? And how many of these 34.5s do I have? Well, I said face 1 and face 3 are equal to 22.5. So I have 2 at 22.5. So I need to double that amount. So when I do that, I get 45. So the area of face 1 and face 3 is 45. Now I got to figure out the area of face 2 and face 4. So I got to multiply 34.5. Sorry, let me redraw that. Times 2, because 2 of them are 34.5. And I get 69.0. So now to find my area of my faces only, which is the same thing as lateral, I add those two numbers up. And my lateral surface area is 114. Now, don't stop there. A lot of you may have stopped there and say, well, I don't know that answer because that answer choice is not there. Remember, we're looking for total, so now I got to figure out the area of my bases to add on to it. But remember what we said, just like phase 1 and phase 3 are equal, and phase 2 and phase 4 are equal, my two bases will be equal. So I have to figure out what is the base and the height of the base. So again, to do that, we're going to have to borrow some heights or use our rules of rectangles. So if the top here is 7.5, that means the bottom here is 7.5. Also here in this rectangle, I have 7.5 and 7.5. Now I have a base and height of the rectangle that makes up my base. So I'm going to plug in those numbers and then I'm going to solve. So I'm looking at 11.5 times 7.5. So 25, carry your 2, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 more is 7, 5 times 7. Okay, so this is a very common mistake that I see. When we multiply by multi-digits, a lot of you guys will like to start right here next. And that's incorrect. So remember, when you're done with a digit, you need to start with a 0 and then move on. So 7 times 5 is 35. I'm going to erase this 2 because we're done with it. Put a 3 there. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 more is 8. So when I add them up, 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 5 is 12. 5 plus 1 is 6. 8 plus 0 is 8. Now I go back and count decimals. 1 on top, 1 on bottom, 2 combined. Move it back twice. And the area of my base is 86.25. Alright, so now the instinct will be is to go and write that right there. And that would be wrong because remember, how many bases do I have? Well, I have 2 of them. So I need to go back and multiply that by 2 to make total area of all bases for the rectangular prism. So when I do that, I get 192 point, oh, sorry, that's wrong. 172.5. Also make sure you don't rush, because that way you don't make the same mistake I just did there. So 2 times 5 is 10, carry 1, 2 times 2 is 4, add 1 is 5, 2 times 6 is 12, carry 1, 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 more is 17. So my total basis is 172.5. Alright, now because I want to find total area, I want to add them up. Now remember, when we add or subtract decimals, it is important to line up your decimals when you are adding and subtracting. So let's line them up. So 172.5 plus 114. And a good way I remember to write my whole numbers as decimals is when I think of money. How would I write $114? 114.00. So add them up. Bring down my decimal. I get 286.5, which is D. So, again, a lot there to this problem. Make sure if you made a mistake, did you multiply by the right numbers? Did you transfer your numbers correctly across your rectangles? And then did you make sure you go back and multiply by 2 or add all of them up? And then if you did do a lot of addition, make sure that you had your decimals lined up. I know that's one of the bigger mistakes that I've seen. So again, if you got it right, good job, congratulations. If not, go ahead and fill out your corrections page and make sure you include that right hand side that says why you think you got it wrong. Alright, so number 9. We're gonna look at what are the keywords in the question. Well, the keyword right here is total. So I know I'm looking at the face plus the bases. Now, the difference between a pyramid and a prism is there's 2 distinct differences, and one of those is that in a pyramid there's only one base, and it's going to be located in the middle of the net. As regards to the rectangular prism, like we saw in the last problem, we had the two bases and they were on the outside or the wings of the net. Whereas here we have a base that's in the middle. Also, the shape of our faces is going to be different. With a pyramid, we have triangular faces. And there's going to always be four faces. Or take that back. With a rectangular or square pyramid, there'll be four faces. With a triangular pyramid, there'll be three. But here we have a square, so we have four faces. And also with those four faces, because this is a square pyramid, that means all the faces are going to be the same. So once we find the area of one face, we know the area of all four that are going to be equivalent. So to find the total, we would just take the number and multiply by 4. So let's see what it is. So I'm going to do the base first because that will be the easiest. It's a square. So that means if this side is 6, that means this side is 6, and all sides are 6. If I do area equals base times height, I do 6 times 6 for a total of 36. So the area of the middle here is 36. Now, we got to find total, so we're also looking for the area of the faces. Now, I will throw caution here because this number right here is there to confuse you, and you'll see why in just a second. So when I look at a triangle, I'm looking for the area is equal to 1/2 base times height. So I'm going to pull this triangle out right here. I'm going to pull him out, and I'm going to redraw him right here. I'm going to add this 6. Now I get that 6 because it's the bottom of the square. It's also the base of the triangle. So I know that this number is 6. But now I have to figure out the height. Now the height, remember what we said is that since it's a square pyramid, all the triangles are going to be the same. So I'm looking at, what I'm looking for in height is I'm looking for that dashed line. I'm looking at the line that goes from the top straight down to the bottom. Now, the reason why this number is here is to make you think, well, this number is the height because I go from the bottom to the top here and it looks longer. Now, even though that's true, don't always assume by the look of it that it's the height. Okay, what you're looking for is this 90-degree angle box. You're also looking for a dashed line like that, and that gives you the height. So really my height here is 8. So when I start to simplify, I get 1/2 of 48, which is 24. Now a lot of you will automatically want to put 24 in there for faces. Okay? Now be careful, because that's the area of one face. What that's saying is that all of these are 24. So how many 24s do I have? I have 4 of them, so I need to multiply this number by 4. So that gives me 96. Okay? So make sure that you multiply by all 4 faces. Okay? Now, once we're done, we need to find total. So I take my lateral, because remember, faces is lateral. And I add it to my base of 36. 6 plus 6 is 12. 9 plus 3 is 12. Plus 1 more is 132. So my answer should have been 132. All right, so a lot of things there. Make sure that you divide it by half on the triangle. Make sure you know all 4 triangles with the same area. And then once you find the area of one triangle, make sure you multiplied it by all 4. If you got it wrong, go ahead and make your corrections. And then on the right-hand side, talk about why you think you got it wrong. Okay, number 10. Number 10 is a triangular prism. Okay, that means the bases are actually triangles. Again, so we have a base and a base. All right, now the key thing too is what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for surface area, but remember what kind of surface area. In this case, I'm looking for lateral. So I'm looking for faces only. Okay, so I'm only going to be looking for the faces. All right, now, what do we know? Well, we know that the faces are all rectangles because here's face 1. This is the face, this is the face, and this is the face. I don't need to find the area of the bases here. So what do we know? Since they're rectangles, if this side is 10, that makes this side 10, which makes this side 10, which makes this side 10, because opposite side of rectangles are congruent. So here I have 10 and 10 and 10. All right, now what can I find right now? Well, I know that the area of a rectangle is base times height. I also know that I have a base and height right here in the middle because I have this 5. Let me erase that so you can see it. I have this 5 and I have this 10. So I say 5 times 10. That gives me a total area of 50 for the middle. All right, so the next thing we need to do is figure out, well, how does I have a height for all these rectangles, but I have no bases? Well, here's what's unique about this is that wherever a base and a face connect, those lines are going to be the same. So this line is actually the same exact line as this when you fold it up. So if this length is 4, that means this length is also 4. Now I have a base and height, so I'm going to say 4 times 10. That gives me 40. So the last one, so we're up to 90, because I'm saying 50 plus 40. We got to check out this last one. So again, we need to know, here's the height of 10. So I know my height is 10. But what is the base? And again, look, it connects to the face right here. Or sorry, the face and the base connect. So again, these lines are the exact same lines. So this length is 7. That means that this length is 7. So then I plug in 7 for the base. 7 times 10 is 70. So now all I have to do is add them up. 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 5 more is 16, for a total area of 100, a total lateral surface area of 160 centimeters. So again, some mistakes here is you might have added the bases. You weren't sure what this value was or this value was, okay? And then maybe a calculation error. If you did get it wrong, like I said, no big deal. Make sure that you show your work, and then on the right-hand side, tell us why you think you got it. All right, now number 11, last one. There was some confusion with this question. Miss Mendoza, had you guys solve? If you had Miss Mendoza, you still solve for lateral. If you had me or Miss Solis, then we told you to change this to total. I will show both. For lateral, the key thing here is that all faces are congruent. Okay, so, what do I mean by that? Is that saying that these guys are all the same? So, since we know that, let's go ahead and figure out what we're going to solve. We're also going to say that these lengths are also 5 because we're going to say the triangles are equal. So if you're doing lateral for Miss Mendoza's students, all you're looking for are the 3 faces on the outside. This is a triangular pyramid, so that means that remember the pyramids, the base is on the inside. Right here is the base. So let's go ahead and figure out the lateral surface area first, and then I'll go back and do total. So remember, area for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. We only have 2 measurements here, so the base is going to be the 5. Remember, height, we're looking for that dashed line and that 90-degree angle. So basically what I'm saying is we're looking for is right here, this is this dashed line right here, and then that 90-degree box. So that tells me that if I redraw this triangle, that's my height and that's my base. So when I plug these numbers in, I'm taking 5 times 7 is 35, so I'm going to take half of 35. Let's do that over here. Now, a lot of you still don't know what to do here. Remember, we don't have remainders in 7th grade. So we add a decimal, and then we add a 0. We bring the decimal up, bring that 0 down. 2 goes into 10 5 times. So each triangle is worth 17.5. But if you're doing lateral, remember, how many triangles do we have? Well, we have 3. So they're all worth 17.5. To find total lateral of faces only, multiply by 3. And you come out to 52.5. Sorry. Okay, now if you're choosing to do total, if you had me or Miss Solis total, then what you would do is instead of, you would still take 17.5, multiply it by 4, and then you get 70, which would be A. So either one of those two are correct depending on who you have. Again, if you the way that it was graded, you have to check with your teacher, but that may or may not have counted because there were 6 questions instead of 5. But again, if you got it wrong, go ahead and do your corrections anyways. Again, tell us why you think you got it wrong, and then once you're done with all your corrections, make sure that you have your tests with you. Bring your copy of your corrections and to your teacher during a tutoring time, or to myself or Miss Mendoza or Miss Elise, any teacher, and then you can take the retest during those scheduled times. Thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful, and good luck on your retest.